right, ladies and gentlemen, on the guest list today, we have one of the most badass people in the industry. She's got new music dropping this week, and for some reason, she's taking the time to talk to us idiots. We have K.Flay on the podcast. K.Flay, how are we?
I'm great. Also, I don't appreciate you calling my friends idiots.
Oh,
Okay.
well, come on. Anybody who knows Kenny knows that that's what we're talking about.
It's the term of endearment.
Okay.
For you, maybe.
Okay.
It's not for me. I meant every single word I just said. Well, before we started, we're going to get into a lot, but you brought up the fact, which I was doing my research today, you're climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. Why?
Yes. Well, I'm so this is happening like in a month. Like I'm leaving in a month. And I'm doing it because I feel like I have it initially inadvertently and now intentionally committed myself to a life of productive discomfort. And um, recently I've gotten more in touch with being intentional about doing that. You know, I sort of like was like, I wonder why I chose this job. I wonder, as I like sit in some like hellhole green room and like haven't eaten for a million hours and like there's a loud noise, just fucking I'm drowning in it, you know, and I'm like homesick and like whatever the fuck else is wrong. I was like, you know, I wonder why I've chosen this path. And I think like for me, and I feel like you guys can relate, there's a way to harness that kind of discomfort and embrace it and really see it as an important and beautiful part of life. And so that's a roundabout way of saying that this climb is part of my active pursuit of productive discomfort. I'm also kind of using it as a little way to raise. I'm just donating just personally. I'm not like doing like a, you know, I'm not asking anyone else for money.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I also want to be intentional about like doing this climb and thinking about shit that isn't me.
Right.
And like what's happening. Cause the world just seems to be, you know, increasingly so chaotic and confusing.
Yep.
And I think having like this really, really concrete goal of like going up and down this thing and having some things to focus on that aren't me feels correct.
I love that.
I like that.
How does something like this even like? Did you call Mount Kilimanjaro tourist service to climb, or did somebody reach out to you and be like, "Hey, I got an idea for you"? How?
No, I had been, you know, it had been a little like kind of in the back of my mind for a few years now, I guess, and the timing is just right. Like I have a couple months off touring. I've been writing my next record, but I'll be finishing it up in the fall. I'm single. I don't have anyone to answer to.
Oh, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
I can just kind of do what I want a little bit, which is really nice, you know. And I'm in like very good I was already in good physical shape, so I was like, you know what? And so I literally nobody reached out to me. I just booked it.
You just said fuck it.
That's exactly right. I just said fuck it, and I thought it would be a great like organizing principle for this kind of late summer and fall.
Well, can you do us a favor? Can you take White Sox Dave with you?
You don't want to take me. I got after the 2016 Chicago Marathon. I had a couple. I'm from Chicago, by the way. I'm not far from Winnetka, so. Yeah, I'm from Wheaton, so not too far. I was out with a couple of high school buddies that ran the race, and we were out drinking, and we got to the point where we made a $500 bet that I couldn't finish the next marathon. So 2017. So I didn't even care about the money, but it was similar to that. Just like you pick a physically demanding goal, just knock it out. It feels awesome once you do. Like, and if you would ask me or anybody else, it'd have been like, you never touched a marathon.
Well, and there is something, I mean, I think you're right. Like there are so many things we do in this life that are totally arbitrary. You just have to like say, hey, I'm going to do this. And then you, hopefully if you have good follow through, you just do it. And there is something very fundamentally human, very basic about just saying I'm going to do something and then putting in the work and preparation to do it. Plus, I will say this is a good excuse for me because I'm bringing a camera, like a real camera.
Hell yeah.
Oh, that was my
On
next
a
question.
trip.
Was like, are people going to be able to follow along? Are you going to make a little content for it? Like, how are we going to be able
No.
to do it?
I'm sure I'll post some photos, but basically another nice added benefit of this is there is no service.
Right.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
This
that's
is
the
for
best feeling in the world.
This sounds
Oh, yeah.
So
this is for
so
you.
that's
Nobody
7 days. That's 7 days where I like cannot be contacted.
Oh, that's fucking magical.
What's gonna
Like-
be on your playlist going up and down that thing?
Ooh.
Wow, I'm probably not gonna listen to music.
I like it.
Yo, I like that
Just
too.
throw the head. Yeah, just listen to the sounds of nature.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I'm getting a little bit like macro on this, but I've also thought a lot about the life of, being a musician and being on tour. It's so stimulating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even like when going to sleep on a bus, it's bouncing, it's noisy. Like, there's just always stimulation and like people and touching and like the fucking stuff everywhere and like, and I think it's made me really think about, like, one of my main things I talk about in therapy is like how to embrace a lack of stimulation.
Yes.
And so I'm also viewing this trip as a little bit of pushing myself in that regard to not like put, listen to 6 audiobooks and listen to music and climb the mountain and take the photos. It's just like, the reason I'm bringing the camera, I talked to a friend of a friend has climbed it twice. Actually, I spoke with him a couple weeks ago, and he was just like, for me, bringing a camera, like a real camera, it helps me to be a better observer.
Interesting. Yeah.
It helps me focus on like, oh, that thing that I want to capture because of, whatever. So I'm hoping the camera is a tool for me to help myself really focus on those things I want to observe. So I'm trying to go low stimulation.
It's funny.
Stimulation. That's surfing to me. The same thing coming off of tour, leaving the studio, whatever it is. It's like being out in the water, no reception, no phone, no sounds, no people, just quiet.
Dude, have any of you guys ever hunted?
No.
So I hunted for the first time last fall, and central Illinois, middle of nowhere, no cars, traffic, nothing. And you're sitting in a tree stand. You don't have your phone on you, and you're literally motionless, and your ears and your eyes are working so overtime that by the end of it, you're completely drained, just exhausted, because your senses are being stimulated in a way that they never are, because we have all this artificial stimulation like Christine was talking about.
Well, I mean, it's funny you even mentioned the fact that I think you're an unbelievable human being for actually like leaving tour and then going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, because we always talk about the feeling, like the Sunday scaries of like coming back from tour and then your brain and your body are just absolutely shot out. And then to be like, what would really help me recover from this is climbing a mountain. Like, that's fucking gnarly, dude. But one thing we were talking about as the three of us before you came on was like, that feeling of like not working and the anxiety that comes along with that in like today's world of like, I'm not on tour and I should be. What am I doing? Like, to take the time to actually cut everything off and focus on you and just nature. Like, that's so sick. Like, I love that.
And also, thank you. No, I appreciate that. And like, not to go on a climate change tangent, but
go for it.
There are glaciers on Kilimanjaro that aren't going to be there pretty soon. I'm going afterwards for a few days to Zanzibar, and like there are reefs in that part of the Indian Ocean that are on the verge of destruction. Like, I'd like to try to see them before, there's the other component of like, all of us as human beings on Earth are just observers of this magnificent planet, and it's changing so rapidly. And so I feel like, just as a receptacle for this information, like, if I have kids, like, I want to be able to tell them, hey, back in the day there used to be a glacier here, or like whatever. And so I sort of feel like in a historian sense, and just as a meek observer of this large, vast
responsibility to take.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, it's just crazy though. Like, there's elements of our natural world that are like going away, and I'd like the opportunity to be able to see them if I can.
Can I ask you a question that's going to make me seem like an idiot who survived 12 years of the Catholic school system in Philadelphia and doesn't know anything?
Yes.
Where's Mount Kilimanjaro?
It's in, wait, hold on. I think it's in Kenya.
Just next door to Kenya. It's in Tanzania.
Damn. I knew
that was not my guess, because in my head I was like, is that the one that's in Washington?
It's Mount Olympus, I think.
Oh my God!
This is you're not stupid.
Oh no, you're wrong.
We're all pretty dumb.
This is in East Africa, and so it's on the Indian Ocean side, and it's just Tanzania neighbors Kenya, so they share a border. And so yeah, I'll be climbing this, and then Zanzibar is an island. It's part of Tanzania. It's an island just off the coast, and that is the plan. So I'm basically just gone for 2 weeks. It's not crazy. I'm gone for 2 weeks, and I'm very excited. And you know what? The friend of a friend who I talked to the other week, he was saying the biggest challenge, in many ways, and I know this, is just the altitude. And so it's really about walking slowly and breathing deeply.
You're already the coolest person that we've had on this podcast.
Wait, hold on. Is there training for something like the altitude stuff? Are you doing like O2 depth stuff, or like what's your vibe?
I'm trying to do, it'll ramp up this month because I'm actually back. So I'm fully in Los Angeles for this whole month of July. And also my best friend, I was the maid of honor in her wedding. She just got married 2 days ago. So that my duties there, we got that knocked off the list. Not that it was a list. It was a beautiful wedding, and I was honored to.
The maid of honor always has a list, whether or not it's a gorgeous wedding, but it's such a responsibility. Being the best man is easy. It's just like show up.
Yeah.
Being the maid of honor, it's like a fucking job, dude.
It was, you know what? It was a labor of love, and I did it with my other best friend from college. We're like best friends from college, and it was a really, really fun and a great wedding. But so for training, the main thing is just like going up and going down as much as possible. So luckily, living in Los Angeles, there's there is elevation here. So there are some hikes that I'm going to be doing that are, that get up pretty high. There's a bunch of like peaks and stuff you can do around here. So I'm doing that this month. And then kind of my like daily or more frequent hikes that I do are just in the Angeles National Forest. And you can get up pretty high there. You can get up to like 6,000 feet or so, and you can go up and down. And so it's just training the body to change.
Yeah.
I gotta say too, being a singer, a front person in a touring act, that is endurance in itself. I mean, I've toured with you, I've played shows, I know about endurance, but there's like, when I even started doing backing vocals, I couldn't breathe. I didn't know how to breathe. I didn't know how to do it, let alone. And Aaron, all the time, I'd be like, dude, I don't know how you do that for an hour and a half. Like, that's insane. So that endurance has got to be some sort of benefit.
It doesn't help that you smoke weed like most people smoke cigarettes.
Right, true, but still, point stands. The front man, that's incredible. It's got to be.
Well, we didn't cover this yet, because whenever a friend of Kenny's comes on, we talk about it, and we had Max from Arkells on a couple weeks ago.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, right before the rally, we had Max on, and your name got brought up, and right away we were like, fuck yeah, dude. And Kenny was like, I love her. So how did you guys originally meet?
Oh, Max and I?
No, Kenny. This schlub.
Kenny and I met on tour.
Yeah.
I was opening up for you guys, I want to say in 2015.
I don't, maybe. I remember it being a good tour, a big one. We did some Canada dates and some.
We did. It was my first time in Edmonton. Was with you guys. Yeah. And it was, what was really interesting for me about that tour, I think it was one of the first times that I'd been opening up for a band that was a lot heavier live than on the record, where I could feel that there was this, like, not in a great way, by the way, but where there was this new element. It's like, you like the music, right? And then you go to the show and it's fucking
Yeah.
It's heavy. You know, there's like some of those like double kick moments. There's China happening. Like I was like, okay. And it really made, actually, I've never gotten a chance to tell you this, but like it made a huge impression on me. I don't even think I fully realized this till like kind of now, actually, but because that was something I think I've been negotiating and thinking about with my live act and how I translate what I'm doing on record. And it was very inspirational and exciting to see that, and to see crowds like understanding that, and being flexible.
Yeah, I've seen all the videos of you going ham on stage, and it makes me so happy to see, because we've always, you know, in AWOL, we were always believers of like, the record's one thing, the show is another thing. Usually the heaviest band wins, generally speaking, just something about the energy and stuff. So like when I see those videos of you going nuts on stage, I'm like, yes, give it to them.
Yeah, no, it was, so that's, to answer the question, that is how we met. I was opening up for like, I think summer, fall, I don't know, something like that.
It was a long tour. It was either 2 tours or one long one or something like that.
I think it was one long one.
Yeah, yeah. And
it all blurs together.
That we as headliners go out and watch the openers every night, but we watched her every night. It was fucking incredible to see.
I mean, your journey fascinates me because I've known a lot of it, and just to be like a casual observer, because I am a fan, like to see, like, for one, the industry side of things, the way you've done things, because you've done the label side, you've done independent, you've kind of lived this double life in that capacity, but also like just like from Stanford to doing mixtapes to getting picked up to getting on your own, like when you look at, because we'll get into your journey, but like when you look at the modern landscape of music, right, and there's so many artists trying to make it, and there's so many artists doing, like, trying to find creative ways, like, what's your best course of action if you're talking to a young musician to say, like, this is what I would do if I was coming up in 2022? Would you say try and get signed? Do you do it yourself? Like, figure it out? Like, where would you go?
That's a great question. I think certainly a part of the advice that I would give, and now that we're back in this space where live events can occur, you know, for me, sorry, so I think the advice, a big piece of the advice would be to perform live as often as possible. And for me, we kind of touched on this just talking about how Kenny and I met, but for me, actually having to be on stage, be the asshole up there doing it, it's very informative. Like beyond anything else, it is informative of like how you like to embody music, what people respond to, what's compelling for everybody. And I think that, you know, certain kinds of music are, you know, I guess sort of designed for just headphones, or just, I don't know, but I think like most music is made to also be performed and enacted. And for a lot of young artists, they don't always have that sense until they get up there and do it. And that was the case for me. Like, even just talking about like going wild up there, it took me time to realize that the kind of music that I like to make and how I like to perform and what I want to be about and what I want to stand for is like catharsis music. It's like, I'm a nice person, I'm pretty polite. Like, I felt awful that I was late to this, for instance. I was like literally standing here just being like, I have no course of action, I'm just standing here like I'm just, oh my god, you know, like this is so rude, this is horrible. That's me. But also, like, I'm sitting here looking at everything that's happening in the world, and like I'm upset, and like people have hurt me personally, and I'm upset, you know, and I want to be able to convey that, but in a safe, productive way. And like that's really kind of what I'm about, and it's taken me a long time to figure that out, that, you know. And actually, I can workshop with this with you guys, but I was saying the other day, it's like a possible album title, but I was like, it's like bad guy music for nice people. Like that's
I like that.
I like that too.
It's funny, everything you're saying, like it rings so true, because I know so many, I still work with a lot of up and coming bands, those like on the brink bands, and they want to they want to be who they are and know who they are and have it all figured out like that. And I keep telling me, like, it takes time. And like you said, it takes hundreds of shows
Oh yeah.
to find out what works, what doesn't work, what feels right, what feels honest, all that stuff. So yeah, you nailed it on the head.
Yo, from that perspective, like coming back and playing shows, right? Because we all had a couple years off. Have you found there's a difference now in the way that you communicate, or just even the way that you feel about playing live? Because I know I've had a lot of anxiety about going back and playing shows. It's like a weird anxiety about it. But like in this recent string of shows, have you felt differently than you did prior to the pandemic about performing, or even just like feelings before you get on stage?
Yes. And it's also connected to me completely quitting drinking.
Ooh.
So this is, I mean, if we want to go down, if we want to
Hell
talk about all
yeah.
this, but
all the roads.
so I many years ago stopped drinking before shows. However, I was still drinking alcohol. And basically as soon as like the news kind of came in, like there may be this like pandemic, I was just like, you know what, Christine, this would be a great fucking time.
Yeah.
Because God knows what's about to happen. This would be a great time to just quit drinking. Like, this is probably like the moment for that to happen. And so I did do that. And so coming back and touring in a total state of sobriety, right? Like, and in this, again, kind of the embracing of this discomfort, the productive discomfort. I think my feeling about the live show and my attitude and energy around it was incredibly rigorous in a great way. Like I know for sure that this tour is the best show I've ever put on. And I kind of did it with these like monologue things, and sort of like I saw an acting coach and did like, it was like a whole ass thing.
Yeah.
And I really pushed myself. And so I think for me, what both the pandemic, maybe my time of life, quitting drinking, all this stuff, the level of seriousness and rigor with which I approached the show was very high. And the cool effect of that was that every night when I got off stage, I was like, I felt really connected to the experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I think the way I've been feeling about the live performance is I've just been so much more present for it, and I've put more pressure on myself. So in a way it's harder because there is that rigor, but the flip side of it is at the end, I'm like, okay, if we're thinking about this as an exchange of energy, like I really was vulnerable and I gave that energy, and that was risky to do, like emotionally risky, not physically risky. And now I can sit back and like reap the dividends of that vulnerability and risk. And so I guess it's been great.
Oh, that's fucking gnarly. I love that.
This is what happens when you interview an educated person.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, seriously.
Thought out ideas.
We interview so many dumb people, and this is better. I like this.
Why didn't you go to Northwestern?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, right, because I grew up. I was born
right.
in
Yeah,
Evanston.
2 minutes away. Yeah, just want to get away from home.
I think I had like a preternatural sense that I needed to leave.
Yeah.
Where I grew up, and strangely enough, my entire family and all of my friends left. So my parents left, my brother and sister left, like permanently. Nobody. I have an aunt and uncle and a cousin who still live out there, but like there was this sort of exodus, and I don't know why for sure, but like I needed to.
Yeah, for sure. I get it. I've been here my whole life, and I'm ready to eventually one day try something different. So I feel you big time there.
Dave wants to live at the peak of Mount Kilimanjaro, basically.
No cell phone. Yeah, I was in Western Nebraska a couple months back, just in the boonies. We were in a town of 401 people. That's what the sign said, and everybody was so polite. Cell phone didn't work. It was just like nice,
Yeah. And I think, it's interesting this thinking about hometowns and where you've grown up and where you choose to reside and how you move in this life. Like it's it's really interesting. Two really interesting questions to ask people that
Mm.
I've learned is number one, what are your feelings about your name?
Mm.
So that's an interesting question. If you ever want to
Wow.
learn something about someone, it's a very interesting question. Because I have a song on my last record called My Name Isn't Catherine because people constantly call me Catherine, and it's actually one of the most frustrating
Is
and
that more frustrating than
bizarre.
Christian?
People call, I think it's because when people see K.Flay, they think the their mind automatically goes to Catherine or
Catherine.
something. And like you would think if your name's Christine with a K, which is my name, people would call you like Christina, Christy, Kristen, like those types of things, which is to me makes more sense. But no, like I remember I was in Monterrey, Mexico, and the promoter of the show like came up like very excited. She's like, "Oh, like Katerina." I was like, "Bitch, what is happening?" Like, what? This is crazy. So that song kind of has led me to the song that like lyrically it ends up at this place of like, it's crazy that then one day I'll probably have a kid, give them a name, and they'll be like, this name is a fucking curse. Like,
Right.
and
Yo.
and I think it's interesting to know how people feel about their name. We can do this as a group.
As I'm naming my kids now.
Oh, do you have names picked out?
Yeah, that's a good. Do you have names picked out?
Do you want to just break the news?
Oh yeah,
You
I
don't
guess
have
it's
to.
close enough that it doesn't matter. Nobody's gonna take it now.
Let's go. What is it?
We have the androgynous kind of one for our girl, Stevie for our girl.
I love
We have
that.
one girl.
Love that.
My wife's parents passed. Her dad's name was Steve. Daughter's gonna be Stevie. And then my favorite band in the world is the Descendants, and somehow I convinced my wife to let me name my son Milo.
Oh, hell yeah. Let's
That's
go.
really sweet. I love those names.
Milo and Stevie Carkeet.
Yeah.
But undoubtedly your children will have feelings about this.
Yeah.
Both good and bad.
Yeah, exactly. I know the second question that's interesting to ask people.
How they feel about their hometown.
Yeah, that's a I mean, and I feel like everybody has qualms about their home. I'm from Orlando, Florida. You know what I mean? I got my own shit to deal with there, but yeah.
I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I refuse to leave because I have this weird, deep love and almost like I know it's a fucked up place, but I have almost like a protective nature about it to where it's like I can't.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave because just because shit's fucked up, you can't bounce. Like that's how I feel about it.
I moved. You couldn't move any further than I moved from East.
You literally went as far as humanly possible.
But I wanted to do music, so I bounced.
It is funny though, because you brought up the name thing, and I actually just gave my mom shit about this the other day. My name is Colin, which is a very Irish name. I'm from an Irish Catholic neighborhood in Philadelphia. My mom's name is Anina Maria Lucia, very Italian. And I always say, why the fuck did you name me Colin? I love my name, but I'm always confused. And she just gives me, I don't know, I liked it. But all my life, people have been like, that's a great Irish name. And I just have to go like, yeah, I know. But I grew up in a house with plastic couches and Michael the Archangel statues in the living room. It's a weird thing. I don't know. Dave, wasn't your name supposed to be William Williams?
Yeah. My dad's family is a bunch of lunatics, and 95% of it's good lunatics. There's the 5% that's bad. Part of the 5% was my dad's William Herman Williams Jr. I was supposed to be William Herman Williams III, and my mom's like, yeah, fuck yourself. That's not happening. Thank God. So they landed on David because David whooped Goliath's ass in the Bible. Boom.
Wait, that's why you were named David?
Yeah.
I like that. I'm the second. I'm Kenny the second, and my parents don't understand why I'm not going to name my son the third. And I'm like, guys, they already have our last name. I was like, what more do you want? I was like, they're good to go.
Milo.
Yeah.
There you go.
Like, they're like, why not Kenny Carkeet the third? I'm like, because I don't.
Milo. See, it all depends. It's got to flow well with the first last name.
Right.
Like Milo Carkeet. That sounds cool.
I already told you I've said this on the podcast. My first son's name will be Chudney, and his name will be Chudney Budney, and that will be.
You're gonna get your kid's ass kicked when he gets to grammar school.
That kid's gonna fuck, dude. That kid's
gonna be like the boy named Sue, basically.
Yeah, just make him tough, dude. But all right, yeah. So no, those are two good questions. Here's my question: how do you feel about Chicago?
Oh, so my hometown. So I grew up in Wilmette, Illinois, which Dave knows or is near currently. And
30 minutes away, yeah.
I mean, I feel like the things that I could, for me, like get out of that experience, I think I got out of it. And one of them being that it was a really, really good place to be a very serious student and athlete, which was kind of my childhood. So it facilitated those things in a great way. Like I was able to be really invested in school and really invested in sports. And that was awesome. And I learned, I think the things that I really take away from specifically my childhood are like my work ethic, and I hope just a general respect for other people and a consideration and like a very grounded humility, because I think there's something about growing up in the middle of the country or a place that's not as relevant culturally, right, as like coastal
LA, New York,
towns,
yeah.
that invokes yeah, just a real sense of like, you are not at the forefront of this. Like, you're not the singer of the band. So
I'm
chill.
gonna become the singer of a band.
So I'm gonna move to California and become the singer of the band. But you know what I mean? And I think that's a great place to start from, is like having a very fastidiousness in life and a work ethic. And also, you know, like I think growing up where there's winter is good. I think it makes you kind of tough.
You're crazy. You're crazy.
No,
that is the number one reason I want to get out of this place is the winter. I don't care about, well, I care about it, but the crime and like everything that's going on in the world, I just want to get rid of the cold. It's awful.
Dude, I say this to Kenny I said this to Kenny recently, and I said this at the bar the other day. I said, growing up where there is winter forces adversity on you through God's hand. He's like, you know what?
There is nothing worse than waking up at 6 a.m. to let the dog take a dump and having to put on 12 pounds of clothes, winter hats.
And there's nothing like just accepting the adversity and being like, I choose this. I choose to get shit on by weather. Like
I'm contractually obligated to be here. I don't choose this.
Kenny's never even seen snow, dude.
Wait, what?
Kenny's never seen snow.
Wait, where did that come from? Are you fucking?
Because you lived in Florida and California.
Yeah, well,
I've never had to toured.
Like,
doesn't matter. No,
living in snow. You know what I mean? I chose not to.
You're just weak. That's why.
Colin, I agree that there is a robustness, a toughness, a grit that comes. You know, I have a vivid memory. One of my most vivid winter memories growing up was okay, so Dave, you'll know this.
I think I know what you're gonna say. Well, no, never mind then.
Okay, this is the Allstate Arena.
Yep.
So I went to go see the Harlem Globetrotters with my family.
Okay.
And which already
I used to work with them, yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, well, in and of itself, it's just kind of funny to me. But we were a very basketball family, and so we were going to see the Harlem Globetrotters, and you know, we have like nosebleed seats, and we're like have the worst parking possible. Like we are just like in the furthest part of the parking lot. So we're like, park, whatever. By the time we get out of this game or show or whatever you call it, it is so bitterly cold and so like wind blowing in the direction. I just remember like walking through the parking lot with this sense that like the walk would never end. And there was no way I could have a coat that would be warm enough to weather any of this, and just being like, I'm living in hell. I'm living
it's awful.
in hell.
You walk outside and your boogers just freeze. You can't breathe. Your lungs hurt. Ugh.
But that made me tough. I feel like it made me kind of tough. So
Are you a Bears fan?
You know, I mean, technically, no, I don't care that much. My family was a Michigan college football family.
Okay.
Let's go.
So I'm like, go blue. Everybody in my family went to Michigan, but me, in some way, shape, or form. I mean, my mom didn't, but so I'm very college. The Bears.
But you've heard. I mean, we have the running joke with bear weather. Like anytime it's like below 20 degrees up, Bears automatic wins, fair weather.
Right.
No one else can handle the tough or be tough enough to handle the cold.
I mean, football is such a punishment. It's insane to me.
Yes.
I'm just like, this sport seems fucking horrific.
It's primal.
Playing football in Michigan in January or in Miami in August.
Yeah.
One of the two.
I
quit football my sophomore year, and we ended up playing New Trier actually in the state playoffs. And my high school won state, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't have quit. But looking back, I'm like, nah, too much lifting weights and running and
getting your head
activity.
bashed in, and
that's kind of a thing.
It's literally a huge thing. It's scary as hell. I'm trying to protect my brain, you know?
I was a swimmer in high school. It was great.
Ooh,
just swimming.
That's good.
Well, so I do have to ask you this. So you go to California, you go to Stanford. At what point do you decide, like, okay, I'm working my ass off at an amazing school, but I'm going to do the craziest shit humanly possible?
Yeah, this is the easiest question ever,
like,
right?
Why? Like, why?
Well, there's two answers. There's the small answer, which is that I got in an argument with this guy about music and was sort of like, the music on the radio sucks, I could write it. And he was just like, that's not true. Ooh. Literally, you couldn't do that.
It was like a
and
dare.
I was like,
watch this.
And I was like, well, okay, watch me. And so that's literally the reason that I make music, is because of Sam Stefanki in this conversation.
Oh, flame him! Let's go. Put the name on record. Let's go.
Yeah, I've put his name on record. So I think, right, a little bit of that, like, teenage defiance, or like young person, just like, I'll show you. So that's the small reason. I think the larger reason, which harkens back to the beginning of our conversation, and the strange magnetism towards productive discomfort, is that I was an incredibly rigid teenager in many ways. My biological dad was an addict who died because of that. And so I think I had, like, what appears to be a pretty typical response to, or one of the typical responses to that, which is like, to become, I couldn't control that, so I will control this.
Right.
And, you know, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't have dairy, I didn't do that, I did this, I'm getting, if it's an A-, well, there wasn't an A-, right? Like, that's the failure, so that's not possible. And so it was just this rigidity. And I think somewhere inside of me, like, lived a flexibility that I didn't know how to tap into. And a sense of freedom, and a sense of newness. And music, because it was something, I didn't know anybody who played music, or it just was not a life path I had ever considered in any capacity. It was like, there were no rules. It was no man's land. And so there wasn't a way I was supposed to do it. And for me, I think looking back, I had that, like, wisdom of, like, a primal wisdom of like, you can't live in this way that you can think you can control everything, because you can't. And so I think in a broader sense, music was a conduit for me to explore all the parts of myself and this world that in many ways I feared, and was scared to engage with, because they were more chaotic, and they were unpredictable and uncertain. But of course, like, that, so much of the beauty in life comes from those things.
That's our industry.
Yeah.
It really is our industry. And so with that in mind, like, that mindset of, like, the rigidity versus go with the flow kind of a notion, and just experiencing things, you signed to RCA, and then you bounce from RCA and you go and do it independently. Like, did you find yourself start to grow when you got out from underneath that, and you kind of start to do it in your own way, have a little more control? Like, did that battle kind of wage past that point?
Totally. I think also that period in my life and career when I was like, I'd gotten signed to a label way too early. I mean, yeah, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But then I'm like off on my own. It's like we're talking about this toughness. It's like no one gives a shit.
Yep.
No one cares about you. So like, are you gonna do it? Like no one's forcing you. So do you care enough? Do you do you have the drive? Do you have the commitment? It was a very there was a lot of pressure. It was an inflection point. And so I think being independent and putting out the record, it forced me to work in a certain type of way. It forced me to focus on what am I trying to do and reconnect with what I'm trying to express. And it really helped me, honestly, for when I did sign again with Interscope and put out a few records with them. I was like, I actually really appreciated how a label can help because
Yeah, it's a lot.
having been with one and been like, oh, this is cool. They gave me some money and now I don't have to, teach the SATs anymore. And then, you have to do it like and the fire's under your ass. Then when someone comes and helps, you're like, what thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to be part of a team.
Yeah, it's so super helpful, and I think once you're go from a label to independent, the realization I assume must be like, holy shit, there really is a lot of work that goes into this thing, this project. I'm curious because Danny Boy's my boy. How did the Dan Reynolds connection happen for that? Because you were the first artist that he signed,
Mhm.
and he's such a good human being and always looking out for new talent and stuff like that. Like, what? How did that happen?
That happened because I was starting to work on some songs with my now very good friend, but then new friend, JT Daly, who's a
Mhm.
producer, and he used to be in a band called Paper Route. And I knew him actually because he was married to a friend of mine. That was our initial connection. And he and I were working on some songs, and his manager also is Dan's brother. And so
Ah.
we were working on these songs, and then I think JT had sent that, whatever, somehow that happened. And Dan reached out to me. He emailed me and was just like, and I would, by the way, was in that headspace of like, I'm independent now. I
Mm.
don't need a label. I'm doing this. This is super fun. My manager and I, Seth, like, we were just loving that experience. And he and I, are great teammates and love working together in that way. So it was very gratifying. And Dan was like, I'm doing this thing. Um, could we like Skype or something? Because he was like in Europe on tour, and I was like, this is okay, sure. And then of course we did that, and in our first conversation, he was like talking to Asia, his wife, or like something, or she called while we were on the phone, and I saw the way that he interacted with Asia, and I was like, oh, I like this person.
Yeah.
Like there was something that happened in our first conversation just outside of music where I was very much I very much felt connected to how he kind of comported himself as a human. And I just really felt like Dan understood what I was trying to do and wanted to help, and he really did. And his, just having someone, because he was technically like my A&R.
Yeah. Oh,
So
Mm.
wow. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like just having someone you like really trust in that way to send songs to and get as a solo artist too, it's hard. Sometimes you just feel kind of like alone out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so that's how we met. He just cold emailed me.
That's a
Wow.
he's always been, just in my experience, such a good human being who's just always been present and will take time to talk to anybody and ask you about your day. He's just that kind of human, and I love those guys. You went out on tour with them too, didn't you?
Yep. And then we opened
Hell of a
we
run.
opened for Imagine Dragons in the US and in Europe. And that was also, talking about live performance, that was very informative for me because it was my first time really experiencing a crowd where the biggest fans are the furthest away,
Yeah.
right?
Ooh.
Like normally it's like the biggest fans are barricade,
Yeah.
they have been, they camped out or whatever. I'm used to playing like large clubs and theaters. This is arenas. So it's like The big fans are up in the nosebleeds.
Yeah.
You can't see them. You can't even hear them.
Yeah.
The people up front are like some rich people who paid
Yeah, they're the
$1,000.
suits.
Yeah, like they don't give a shit, and they certainly don't care about the opener, you know. And so that for me the big lesson of that, besides getting to watch Imagine Dragons do their thing every night and learning a lot about like how to put on a big type of show with production, in a certain way, was not having the crutch of the energy at the front.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do I create the energy inside?
It's interesting. Yeah, we did that same thing. Opening tours on an arena level is tough. It's like playing TV. It's just not the same thing.
There's
right.
there's no energy.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to trust. I think the other part of it too, and maybe you guys relate to this, is like, because I would do these shows and then afterwards people are like, that was so sick, blah, blah. I'm like, really? Was it? So you kind of have to trust that someone is like, it's like a radio signal. You're sending it out into space, hoping the aliens hear you.
Yeah.
And it's like having that faith and trust in yourself that if you commit to a certain type of performance and energy, it will reach people. But though you may not in the moment understand that communication is happening.
Wow. Fucking well, that's exactly right. That's crazy.
I mean, dude, and it's so funny because we kind of started the conversation at where you're at now, but you obviously have new music coming out this week. You're playing shows again. Like where are you in your head right now with your, not your career necessarily, but like what you're creating? Like where, like, I don't know how to put this. Like you've done so much, you've gone through so many different phases. Like where are you right now in your own head?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I'm engaged in a similar dialogue with myself. I'm feeling about music the way I felt right before I put out my second record, which is the record I put out with Dan.
Right.
Which is to say, I feel very good. I feel very connected to the kind of music I want to create and enact. And I think, we talked about rigor, and it's been a concept I've been thinking about a lot because I've been trying to apply a certain type of rigor to my work life. And by that I don't mean like every day I get up and write a song and I've got to, but I mean, this is going to be my fifth record. Okay, so which is already I'm like, Jesus. Okay, so I'm working on my fifth record. So where can I take it? How can I be rigorous and not settle? Because at this point, like, as you guys know, it's like I know how to write a song. That's okay or whatever, like I can do that. How do I push myself? And that's where I'm at. I'm at the point of I don't want to settle, and I want to be as expressive as I can and try to explore some places both sonically and lyrically that I have explored. But of course, like there's only really 5 things to sing about, so I'll keep, maybe even fewer, 3, I don't know. But that's, so I'm feeling really good. I've been very prolific and feeling creatively very inspired, and an added benefit again of this, of totally abstaining from substances, because I never really was into anything else, is just this like, I'm very present.
Yeah, whether that's good or bad. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to tap into, I guess, is my point there. Particularly like moments of pain or disappointment and loss, like those things, they also feel very present. So, and not that that's what I'm writing about necessarily. I just mean like being in touch with all that feels. Yeah, I'm in my feels, all the feels.
I got that for you that there might not even be an answer to, but because because I think about this often, again, as I work with a lot of up and coming bands, I try to blend this line or figure out this line. With it being your 5th record, do you write for, are you creating for yourself? Are you creating for others, or a blend?
That's what I was just about to ask.
I mean, where like sometimes an artist will make a record for them, which didn't connect. And then other times they always try to include what other people are going to want so that it does connect. And then there's this whole gray spectrum in between. Just curious on your 5th record, if you find yourself being like, I want to write this for me, whether other people like it or not, or I want to make sure I include what my fans like, or if you're just kind of writing and what comes about comes about.
I think I'm writing, and then where the rigor is coming in is, what do people connect with?
Right.
Like, because there are things that I do that are, good or okay, that it doesn't translate, right? And not even being judgmental about. I think where people get like really tripped up is when they're judgmental towards themselves about that. Like there's something wrong with them or that. And this like kind of bad guy music, like for nice people idea. I think generally when I am both like emotional and tough, like that is the space where it resonates. And so I'm trying to be really free in the initial genesis, and then I'm trying to actually be pretty cognizant of the audience as I then continue, as I take it from like a verse and a chorus to the next step.
Right.
And it's been interesting. Like I even had this demo that I'm working on right now of the song. I think is actually very, very good. Where in the second verse I said something like, I'm a Midwest girl, and on the revision I was just like, you know what? Maybe I'll keep that, but maybe I'll rewrite the second verse and do this other thing. And I did, and it's better. And like, because also like not everyone is a Midwest girl, and sometimes people want to sing that. You don't need to make your lyrics like, I am a human, I look like anyone, like, but like you guys understand what I'm saying, that like on some level, like if everyone's got their fists in the air, it needs to be something like that everyone feels connected to.
Yeah.
And so that is something I'm like trying to be cognizant of.
Dude, this is
the last thing I'll say too, because I know we got to wrap it up. Not that you need any more of the compliments, but your friendship with Bishop Briggs has been something beautiful to watch. Just because I
love Bishop Briggs.
I've got to know both of you guys separately, because I got to play some shows with Bishop back in the day, and her music is fucking incredible, and so is yours. And I just feel like it's so important what you two kind of have done for solo female artists in an alternative world who have shit to say, lots of stuff to say and things to connect with. And it's just so cool to see you guys dominating and shredding and like inspiring and motivating. And I, as a sideline watcher, I'm loving all of it.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, Bishop, AKA Sarah, is, it's one of those cool relationships where we met through work. And because we were just in these spaces together, and playing like alternative radio festivals and whatever, promoting things at the same time.
That's where I met Bishop Briggs, was at an alternative radio festival we opened for. She's fucking awesome, dude.
And I had worked on about a little bit of half of her last record, writing with her, and that again, was sort of a work context, but we're starting to develop this like really close friendship, and that's just grown. And I think it's so wonderful to find, and hard to find, people who like it's hard in any line of work to have someone start as a work friend,
right,
and become an actual, like a real friend, not just like, oh, we go to happy hour or something, but like we actually rarely talk about work. I mean, we still work together, Sarah just had a couple songs come out, one of which I had written with her, and like I love working with Sarah, she's so talented, but like we just do that because we're as a side thing. But it's like, so I don't know, it's just kind of cool to have like a work Yeah, a work friend become a real ass friend.
A lot of musicians don't get work friends.
Nope.
It's so fun. I saw you guys not too long ago. I didn't want to bug you guys at a Winnetka Bowling League show. Matthew Turner is one of my best friends in the whole world. I saw you guys there. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go say hi. No, I'm not gonna go say hi. Then I watched the show and left. But I just want to also connect that like one of my favorite bands is Marm's.
Oh, you know, I'm hiking with Matt in like 4 hours.
What? Marms is like, he's gonna be like the godfather of my children. He's so close. Tell him I said hi. I talk to him all the time, but tell him.
Of course, I'll tell him. Yeah.
Can he FaceTime Matthew Coma from his grandmother's funeral?
That's true. And if you know that's what he would do. That guy has no boundaries. I love him.
Yeah, he's the man, dude.
Anyway, he's a wild card.
He's a wild boy.
Yeah. He is, and I that's so funny. Okay, well, I'll definitely tell him that. I'm literally like, it's funny because I already worked out, as you know, but I'm trying to hike and walk as much as possible, as you can imagine. But yeah, and actually Matt's another good example of that. Matt and I are newer friends, but like we met a year ago, but we share some type of like anxious DNA. Yeah. There's like a neurotic thing we share, and we kind of just met, and like the day we met, I remember texting him because I'm a very open communicator. Like I really tell people like how I'm feeling, and if I want to be close to them, I just say like, hey, I want to be close to you, and then if it's not reciprocated, then it's fine. But I just think it's better to do that. And so after I met Matt, I texted him being like, hey, I don't know if this is weird, but I like really like feel connected to you and would really like to be your friend.
That's awesome.
And he was like, dude, I was just talking to my wife. He's like, I'm sitting next to my wife, and I'm like, was telling her I met this person today and I really want to be your friend. And I was like, Matt, I feel like we're 5 years old.
There is no nicer human, or maybe no more talented human than Matthew.
Oh, he's a beast, dude.
He's a fucking genius, and I love him to death, and he's my brother, and that's awesome.
There also is something so gnarly about having that conversation, and he's talking to his wife, and it's Hillary Duff. Like, there's something so cool about that. Like, there's something so sick about that. Like, that they're such good people, and it's those two. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's dope.
Totally. No, it's okay. Well, I'll tell Matt. You say hi.
Yeah. I'll text him later anyway, but definitely tell him he was on this podcast. He was one of our first guests because he's such a good human. He stopped what he was doing to be on our podcast before we had any guests, you know.
And he literally came on and said, I don't even know what this is.
I don't even know what this is, but I'm there. I'm like, my dude.
Well, Christine, because I wanted to fuck with you and say, well, Catherine, we're gonna wrap this up, but I didn't. Everybody, please, when she gets back from hiking Mount Kilimanjaro, please go see her live. Listen to the new tune that drops this week. What's the name of the song? And I know it has a feature on it as well, correct?
Yeah, so this is me actually featuring on another artist track. So the song's called Ragdoll. The artist is Pouty Face. Kenny, do you know her at all, or? Really
familiar, but not into it.
We met working on a song for her, and then just kind of had this larger connection, but she's so talented. She just finished opening up her first tour. She was opening for Youngblood, and like did her first, coming out of COVID, just did her first tour. So she's like at that place, which is really exciting. I just believe in her so much, and this song came about in a really cool way. It's about really just feeling like a rag doll, and the world is throwing you, like
tossing you everywhere, right?
Tossing you everywhere, and what do you do with that feeling, and what is it like, and how can you harness that for your own growth too? So it's really cool. The video's rad. That comes out too. So I'm super excited.
Hell yeah. Well, everybody, please go check out everything K.Flay has going on. And I'm a pretty open communicator as well. And I just want to say, I think we all would like to be your friend. So,
well,
God, that was such a corny way to end this, dude.
It wasn't corny. It's honestly, nothing is corny. Corny is just real. And I love corny shit. Thank you guys so much for having me. And I'm so sorry that I was late.
No, you're good.
Stop.
You're good.
One last thing I will ask is, when you get back from Mount Kilimanjaro, please come on and explain what the hell you went through.
Please.
I would love to.
Let's go.
Boom.
Done.
Okay, easy. can I be like a frequent guest? And everyone's like, stop having this woman on your show.
Hell yeah.
Like,
Dude, and
bring in alter ego every time.
Every time you have to be a different person.
Yeah.
I do have some wigs.
There we go.
What are we waiting for, dude?
I just got a notification on Citizen that someone robbed the wig store down the street from me. Like literally 2 minutes ago.
Well, that's my cue to go.
Yeah. Everybody, please go check out all K.Flay stuff. Good luck on your mission, and we'll see you soon. All right.
That is a mission.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you guys so much. It was so great to see you and meet you.
Yeah, great.